is up, everybody? Keith Jamison, aka Gator Guy 231, here to break down the 3-game EPL action on Saturday morning. Does look like we're going to have something at 7:30. Just DraftKings decided not to post it yet. We were too busy to post these La Liga showdowns and the championship showdowns that we're all going to degen today. But we're going to cover the 3 games on the EPL slate. It's going to be a difficult slate because they're all spread out. And, you know, we're a couple weeks into this now. A lot of these teams, especially like Chelsea, hasn't really rotated much. So it's going to be really interesting to see if there is some lineup shakeups. That will really give those of us that have been paying attention, that are watching this video, that have done the research, some edge in the contest. If they do drop this 7:30 slate at some point, I'll try to do maybe like a live stream or maybe like a quick emergency video. But until then, we're just going to cover the 3 games. I am going to spend a little extra attention on each team, though, because I think that what's going to end up happening is the showdowns are going to be some of the biggest contests on Saturday. All right, let's pull up the odds, and we will go from there. Sorry about that. All right, now we got it up. So the first game on the slate is Liverpool hosting Burnley. Liverpool is the single biggest favorite on the slate, -400 with a 3.25 total. Second game is Chelsea -172 to Sheffield, who has finally regained a little bit of form. And final game is Man City. Yay, Man City at the end of the slate. What could possibly go wrong? But -322 to Brighton, 3 total. So unfortunately, and let's before we go into lineups, I do want to just kind of go over like the table. The slate's really interesting in the fact that there's only really 2 teams playing for something. And that's Chelsea and Sheffield. And that's actually the game that if you're not careful, you're probably going to overlook. So I think at this point, that's probably one of my my favorite GPP pivots is maybe like looking at that game for some exposure, knowing that not only is Chelsea playing for Champions League spots, but, you know, Sheffield still has an outside shot at Europa spots. So I think, you know, you could potentially have either team, you know, showing up for, you know, maybe a big game at low ownership. Whereas, you know, City, they technically, you know, are still playing in the league for something. I mean, if we look at the table, you know, they can't lose out or they'll miss out on Champions League, but they might miss out Champions League anyways with the ban. Then Liverpool's already clinched. They looked a little bit better against Brighton for the first like 15, 20 minutes. And then it was back to, you know, the annoying Liverpool that, you know, they just kind of fell into the game, in my opinion. I don't know. They just didn't look as sharp. We'll see if maybe being back at Anfield gets them a kick in the ass. But, you know, on that note, let's jump into the team, you know, predictions and news. We'll go from there. So first off, best preview I could find that is all on one screen. So I'm on Fantasy Football Scout. So let's kind of go over Liverpool. First thing I want to just mention is I would not be surprised if Mo Salah is rotated and starts on the bench. We saw Sadio Mane do that last game. Klopp has kind of made a history. If he rests one game in this type of scenario, I could see Salah get rested. Unfortunately, I would bring Minamino, who has been awful, into the fold. But if you kind of want, you know, a low-owned player to start the day, 7,300, no, I would not do it. Like, here's the thing. I think that Sadio Mane at 5,600 is very in play for cash and maybe as your Liverpool exposure, if and only if you see no Salah. If you see Salah, you know, potentially you could pick one or maybe even just skip both. I think a big decision on the classic slate is going to be, you know, are you going to be paying up for Willian, which I'll be going over soon. Trent Alexander-Arnold is still underpriced. He is 7,300. for, really most of the sets and huge open play value. I think what we also need to look at for him is, he has started every single game since the break. Is he maybe given a break? Nico Williams comes in, which was a disaster on Showdown. And, here's the one thing. I talk about this with Chelsea a lot, especially with Azpilicueta when he starts on the left, that a strongly right foot dependent left back is probably not what you want to do. Like they get to the byline, they have to cut it back to cross. And stupid ass me just saw Nico Williams, have seen him enough in the FA Cup. I was like, oh, I'm all in. Did not think about that enough. But, if he starts on the right, I think that you need to strongly consider it. For Showdown, if you think that Burnley could struggle to score, which they very well could be, Alisson, always is a fairly solid Liverpool exposure, especially at home. So, maybe you go something like, assuming that Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Salah, Mane all start, you probably are not going to be able to fit both of Salah, Mane, Alexander-Arnold, Alisson, and Robertson. They're not going to let you do that salary-wise, but maybe you could do some form of Alexander-Arnold, maybe like Mane over Salah, thinking that maybe Salah's due some breather even at the end of the game. Robertson, Alisson, and as long as Alisson stays clean and Salah only scores like one goal or he doesn't score at all, you should be able to dodge it. Or obviously you could go Salah over Mane, all that good stuff. So I think that kind of wraps up Liverpool. Like, just be careful, in my opinion, going overboard on Liverpool, especially if you see like Salah sit. Minamino, when he's been in, like the attack just does not look as great. Even if they start Oxlade over on the right, the movement when Salah and Mane and Firmino are all not together always is off. Or they could start a Regi out there. Regardless, I'm never as big on my squad, Liverpool, when any of these front three are not there. For Burnley, you are just not going to be targeting Burnley on the classic slate. You need to leave roster flexibility, so you should not have any Burnley in your lineup for the classic. For Showdown, Dwight McNeil's price is most likely going to be out of control. He is, let me just pull it up. I accidentally closed the DK app on that last screen share, so my bad. But let me pull it up on my phone. But his price has been getting a little out of control. So I sit there and I wonder, is he going to be a little too expensive on the Showdown? And now my phone's not working. So let me try to real quickly pull up DraftKings. But yeah, so, I don't think it's an Ashley Westwood slate either. I don't think that, you chase three corners and that play unless he's super cheap. So, I just don't see the Burnley that you do. Maybe you go me or Tarkowski in Showdown, or maybe Brownhill has been pretty cheap. Eric Peters, I think, was 3,900 on the classic slate. So could, any of these guys work out and get you just a couple of DK? Sure. Or you can always go like the J-Rod random goal, Stain Alisson, and you're off and running. All right, let's move to Chelsea, because I do think that what you do with Willian is going to largely decide whether you're going to cash or not in Classic. Because if you fade Willian, you can go like a Mane and Sterling, or Mane and Mahrez. I think Mahrez might rest personally. But, Sterling is really cheap. So you could go a Sterling, Mane, get the two biggest favorites and their two of their biggest attackers in your lineup, still get KDB, still get Trent Alexander-Arnold, and be able to make a lineup. So that's kind of where I've been toying with. But can you really fade this production? It's just been absolutely insane how good Willian has been. So since the break, we have 19.2 with no goal or assist. He's been on all of Chelsea's sets. He's not splitting with Mount at all. 19.2, 17.7 with a goal. So that was versus City, and that was on a PK. 31.8 versus West Ham with 2 goals. 23.5 versus Watford with a goal. And 30.6 versus Crystal Palace. that production is absolutely insane. He's forward eligible. So, instead of going, to more goal dependent guys, like while Mane and like Sterling are both great players, you still are needing a goal or assist to do anything special and even pay off their 8K price tags, versus Williams going to be walking onto the field with a goal already scored from his floor, right? He's walking on with 10 to 12 DK, and then, an assist or a goal, and you're over 20. So that's going to be the decision. I'm going to struggle with him to lock. But, from a showdown perspective, he's the easy first guy in your lineup, as is Pulisic is the easy second guy in your lineup. Pulisic has continued to be absolutely lights out for Chelsea since coming back. Willian and Chelsea and Pulisic have been the engine. But 20.8 with a goal versus Palace, 12.2 just floor versus Watford, 8.2 floor versus West Ham, 16.6 with the goal versus City. It should have been 2, except for Kyle Walker can balance the line, it seems, pretty damn well. 16.2 versus Villa with the goals. So Pulisic has been lights out. And then I think what you'll end up doing on that showdown slate is grabbing Alonso, Azpilicueta, and then maybe some cheap Sheffield pieces. Both Alonso and Azpilicueta are very in play on Classic. If you don't see Trent Alexander-Arnold in the first game, then I think all of a sudden, Marcus Alonso, assuming he's back in the squad, Reece James is sort of the last 2, but I think it would be time for Alonso to come back. But if you see TA out, then Marcus Alonso, in my opinion, is the class of the defender slate, followed by Azpilicueta and Robertson, some version of that. Back to Liverpool. I am sorry. But if for some reason Alexander-Arnold did rest, Robertson would move on to a lot of the corners. And we've actually also seen Fabinho go over to the right. Like, let's say that there's no Oxlade-Chamberlain or no Salah, you might see Fabinho over there. Okay, back to Chelsea. Barkley and Mount are both kind of more GPP, even though Giroud's scoring, he's more GPP too, especially since I think Sheffield's defense is back to pre-break Sheffield defense, especially with O'Connell back in the fold. So again, Willian, Pulisic, Alonso, Azpilicueta, those are your Chelsea targets. Sheffield United. So Fleck still looks like he's in doubt. Let me get a quick drink. So with the Mount, Norwood has been on all the corners. I was very fortunate to get the Norwood assist at the death. He was on our core, what was that, Wednesday, whatever that day was. I had a ton of Dean Henderson, so that was an awesome ending. But Norwood is softly priced, which means he potentially could be softly priced on the showdown as well. I don't know if he's a main slate play at 4,700, but here's the thing. He's not only has a set monopoly, but he, does a lot of tackling, can do the occasional shot. So I think at 4,700, I'm even though the matchup isn't great, it's not like Chelsea is just going to completely and utterly dominate the ball. Sheffield's still going to get some chances. So I don't know. I'm talking myself into potentially him in a classic cash build. Ben Osborne's going to be popular again. They still have not fixed his price. He is only 3,200, I believe. Yeah, 3,200. He is coming off his best game, 8.4 DK, which include 4 crosses and shot on goal. When Norwood has come off the pitch 2 games ago, Osborne jumped on corners too. So at 3,200, he plays that more attacking midfield role for Sheffield with their system, where he kind of touches the byline. He and Stevens and O'Connell all work to do this weird overlapping rotations. Again, I'm a football geek. I just love watching tactics, and dude, Sheffield's so fun to watch. Just how all this movement with these center backs works. But I think he's going to be really popular on main. Baldock and Stevens are fine as wingbacks. Sharp, McGoldrick, GPP. And then, if you are just like a last guy in, don't be afraid to look at Chris Basham or Jack O'Connell. They will cross the ball because sometimes they overlap and become the wingbacks. So just know that, both guys are actually big too, so they're set piece threats. So you could do worse than these outside backs for a punt. All right, final game is Man City versus Brighton. So first off, on Classic, you are not saving room for Brighton pieces. If you're going City stack, and City just completely throws a huge wrench into your lineup plans. You can always pivot to some Brighton fill-ins, but if you're saving a ton of spots, it's going to be for City. So I did hear, the only thing I will disagree, I did see, DraftKings and RotoWire has Mendy still at the out tag. He completely missed the squad and wasn't fit on whatever that day that was, Wednesday. So for him to go completely out of the squad to starting, I think is in doubt. So you might still see Zinchenko over there on the left. Zinchenko was phenomenal for DFS versus Southampton, not so much against Newcastle. And here's the thing about City. In playing DFS soccer for 4 years now or 3 years now, whatever it was, the big thing with City is when they struggle to break down a defense and, a team is willing to sit a million people behind the ball, then they will cross a ton in open play. You will see a ton of Zinchenko crosses. You'll even see Walker cross. Mars will stay out wide. All these, that had a little bit of a tech issue there, but you'll see a lot of crosses. But what happens if you all of a sudden they get early goals? They just start going back to the Pep system of a lot of low passes, not crosses in the box, just a lot more movement, and your only crosses become on corner kicks. So just keep that in mind when you play Man City fullbacks. That said, if Kevin De Bruyne is in, I play Kevin De Bruyne. Like it's hard to avoid, what the second or top 3 DFS player in the world, potentially outside of Messi and Ronaldo. Is he the top footballer in the world? I think so. So it's really hard to avoid him, especially as a huge favorite. I do think he'll be in the squad. I do think he'll start. He did just come off of playing 90 versus Newcastle, which was surprising and somewhat worrisome. So I do think that there's going to be equity in the fade, especially if you decide when you want to go like a Liverpool stack to start. But for cash, I do think that you still play De Bruyne. Likely we will see Sterling back in for Foden. Foden missed a couple chances. Maybe he starts over Mahrez, who started the last few. Jesus is very much is very much needing a day off. So I do think it's interesting that they have Bernardo Silva here through the middle. Maybe they do some version of Silva on the left to give Mahrez a blow, Sterling through the middle, and maybe Foden gets another run on the left. You could see something like that. But just, no, it's City. Sterling, I think's price is really interesting at 8,300. That, interesting the fact that it's low. My opinion on what Brighton is going to do is Brighton does not have it in them to just sit back behind the ball. Graham Potter, that's just not the style. It's not the football he wants to be known for. It doesn't seem at Brighton. So they're still going to come at City, which could really open up. There should definitely be some goals. I think there's more goals in the City-Brighton game, potentially even with Brighton scoring, but more goals there than there is in the Liverpool game. That'll be my, the little flag that I'm going to plant. So I'm planning on favoring City to Liverpool at time of recording. So yeah, just understand Sterling, especially if Silva's wide. I like Silva. If Mahrez is in, obviously he's always in play. De Bruyne. Focus on the attackers. I would just not worry too much about the defenders or the other midfielders for City. For Brighton, just don't overdo it. This is City still. While Brighton is fun, he has some players that we do like. This is City. They are not going to see enough of the ball to really make a difference. The 2 guys that I would look at is Lamptey is really cheap and loves to bomb forward. He's just a fun player. But 3,100, he definitely damaged Liverpool down the right. He had 3 crosses. The assist was a beautiful one, 12.6 DK, and he's coming off of 11.8 versus Norwich. Obviously, Norwich and City are very different, but 3,100 for a fullback that does like to bomb forward is good. Dan Burn is more defensive, but also is tall, so he can show up in the box. 2,900 for a fullback, you could do worse. So I think that is the type of Brighton exposure I'm going to be looking at for both Classic and for Showdown. I'm not going to worry about the Moyes, the Trossards, the Malplays of the world. If Connolly is cheap enough, 3,900, so that means it should be cheap on Showdown too. That could be worth a GPP look. So yeah, anyhow, I hope that this helps. Sorry that, we don't have like the normal sofa formations that, I can see the full field and show you some more things, but we're doing what we can. It's Friday. It's before 7 a.m. So getting as much content as I can get out to you guys. Again, be on the lookout for maybe something on the EPL 2 gamer coming later today. And then good luck on all the showdowns. Just last little plug, if you are still around, check out fsisoccer.com. Consider maybe buying a soccer membership. $10 a week gives you full coverage to all soccer slates. If you look through some of the screens that we've been posting on Twitter, results have been phenomenal. I absolutely love to see all the wins that people are pumping out. And let's continue it today. Guys, take care and have a great day of soccer. Peace.